My jealous sister tried to destroy my baby shower with a fake paternity test, but her scheme backfired and her marriage collapsed before our entire family. Minnie and I are a year apart in age. She's 31, female, and I'm 30, female. Growing up, my sister told me many times that she was jealous of me and disliked me. It made me really sad because she was my only sibling, and I loved and admired her a lot. I had always looked up to her and tried to be close, but she pushed me away. When she was happy, she was a great sister, a really fun and creative person. However, whenever we got into arguments, she would say really mean things and try to physically harm me by punching, pushing, or pulling my hair. My parents scolded her for doing this since she was older than me. I tried to tell her how much I looked up to her and wanted to be close, but she always resented me. Minnie always had a more outgoing personality. She had a strong passion for the arts, excelling in makeup and fashion. She loved experimenting with her hair and getting tattoos. My mom started me early in school, and eventually Minnie and I ended up in the same grade because I demonstrated advanced academic abilities according to my teachers. Fortunately, we weren't placed in the same class. Minnie didn't like this and often saw me as her competition because I was more academically inclined. It wasn't a high bar though, as she simply disliked doing homework, making my pretty average grades appear stellar. I consistently earned a mix of B's and A's, while Minnie typically got C's and B's. Her strengths lay in art, drama, cooking, sewing, and dance. As I grew up, I fell in love with the violin since my mother pushed me to learn it, and I dabbled in learning French and Korean. Minnie was part of the drama department at school and spent most of her evenings practicing for plays. Things took a turn for Minnie when she got kicked off the drama team due to a fight with fellow students. The drama unfolded because Minnie discovered her boyfriend cheating on her with another girl from their department. In response, Minnie beat up the girl and set her bag on fire. The incident led to Minnie being asked to leave the school, although nothing significant came out of it once my parents talked with the principal and compensated the girl. To this day, I'm not exactly sure about all the details, but I do remember that she had to repeat the 9th grade. Our parents lectured us a lot, and she was grounded until she turned 18 because of this incident. Her relationship with our parents suffered a lot, and they were disappointed with her for a very long time. The longest romantic relationship I had lasted only 6 months, and you know why? It's all because of my sister. I wasn't exactly on a mission to find the one, but every time I had a decent relationship, she would try to jeopardize it. Once, I really liked a guy named Derek. He and I had been together for 4 months, and things were getting pretty serious. We were on the verge of meeting each other's parents when, out of the blue, the night before, he blocked me from everywhere. Phone number, iMessage, and Facebook. The only way we could communicate was face-to-face, so I ended up showing up uninvited at his house to talk. When I arrived at Derek's house, he seemed surprised to see me. I confronted him about being blocked on every platform and asked what had happened. Derek hesitated for a moment before admitting that my sister had reached out to him, expressing concerns and sharing stories about my alleged past that portrayed me in a negative light. Feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief, I pressed Derek to share the details of their conversation. He revealed that my sister had told him I had been talking to other guys throughout the time we were dating, and that she found me sending inappropriate pictures to one of my guy friends. I was mortified when I heard this. I tried to explain my side of the story, refuting the claims my sister had made, but Derek seemed uncertain and confused. He questioned why my own sister would lie about me and make up something so serious. I felt like crying as I explained how my sister had always been jealous of me and would try to mess up my relationships. I had no idea she could go so far as to make up such lies. The damage was done, and despite my efforts to salvage the relationship, he expressed doubts about continuing since he didn't want to be involved with someone who had a troublesome sister like Minnie. I understood where he was coming from, since if I had a choice, I wouldn't be related to her either. Heartbroken and frustrated, I confronted my sister about her actions. After a lot of yelling, Minnie finally admitted to feeling insecure and jealous that I always dated good-looking guys. She told me it was always easy for me to find guys, and she hated me for it. She asserted that she thought I was too good for Derek, so she made up those lies to drive him away from me. I was so pissed at her, and it became clear that her actions were driven by her own unresolved issues of jealousy. My parents reprimanded her and told her how wrong this was, but Minnie didn't seem to care because, in the end, she got what she wanted. Derek and I were broken up. This incident served as a turning point in my life, prompting me to start thinking about moving away from her. It was a stark realization that if I ever wanted to have a healthy and lasting romantic connection, I could not have her near me. We both shared a dream of studying abroad. She had immense potential, but it seemed like fear or a lack of personal research led her to pursue computer science in our home country, following our dad's advice. Witnessing that, I realized I didn't want my parents influencing my future choices. I worked tirelessly to secure a scholarship to study abroad. However, despite my efforts, financial constraints prevented me from going, so I compromised and started university in our country, majoring in what I wanted. After a year, my determination to go abroad persisted, and I kept searching for opportunities. Eventually, I secured a scholarship and could finally head overseas to restart my studies. My parents were really sad that I was moving away. On my last night at home, Minnie apologized to me for all the things she had done to me since our childhood. I don't know what prompted her to do so. Maybe it was the fact that I was moving so far away and she could have our parents to herself now. I didn't want to pursue any drama any longer, so I forgave her. During my solo adventure studying abroad, I underwent a significant transformation. I shed some weight, met new people, discovered my personal style, and gained newfound confidence. Graduating was a major milestone, but the year that followed was tough as I struggled to secure a job. Eventually, I found a good job and settled down. Meanwhile, Minnie finished her bachelor's degree in our home country. She told me how she wanted to come and study in the country I lived in for her master's, so I encouraged her. She started applying to different universities for scholarships, but her applications kept getting rejected. She grew frustrated. Once, she came to visit me and stayed with me for 10 days so I could show her around. She could see that I had changed, and whenever she made sly remarks about my clothes or hair, I didn't listen anymore. I found it very weird how she would try to control what I wore, or how I needed to behave in public. If she and I went out for lunch, or if I had friends over, she would tell me she didn't like them and that I needed to find better people to hang out with. There were instances when I would be enjoying myself with my friends, and suddenly she would get weird without any apparent reason. When I took her to work and showed her where I was working, she was surprised to see how huge my office was. I excitedly told her how I had been presented with opportunities for new experiences in my field, but she just went quiet and didn't even seem happy for me. Instead, she shifted the conversation to herself, expressing how she would love the same opportunities and regretting some of her past choices. Later, when we were having dinner, she told me she wanted to extend her vacation and continue to live with me, but I knew I couldn't live with her judgment. I politely told her it was better for her to find new accommodations if she wanted to stay longer because she clearly had issues with me and refused to talk about them. This is when Minnie lost her mind. She started yelling at me about how she was sick and tired of having me in her life when all everybody does is compare her to me, and how her achievements are never enough. I pointed out that I never treated her this way, and it was she who always made me feel inferior. Minnie then told me I wasn't anything special, and that she could have done the same things as me if she had the same opportunities. I told her we had the same opportunities growing up, and I decided to apply for universities abroad and worked my ass off to secure a scholarship, while she was failing to secure one and somehow blaming me for her choices. This pissed her off, and she told me I was just a spoiled brat and wished I was never born. Those words hit me hard, and I got up from the table and locked myself in my room. 2 days later, when she flew back without ever apologizing, I could finally breathe in peace. I realized how much she and I had changed over the years, and I had started to dislike her presence a little by now. Eventually, I met my boyfriend James, who worked in the same industry as me. Our paths crossed all the time. We had mutual friends, and during a gathering, we met and had a couple of drinks. It was super fun to talk to someone who understood my line of work, and I thought we would just be friends. It turns out he liked me and asked me out the next day. We started dating and were together for 2 years before he proposed to me. I am close to his family since they live in the same country, and he has met my parents through video calls. We had been planning for our wedding when I received a job offer that would pay me double what I was earning at my current company. The only catch was that the new company was based in my home country. I discussed this with my fiancé, and we both agreed it was a life-changing opportunity, so I took the job. This is how I shifted back to my home country, and my family finally met my fiancé. My parents adore James, and my dad spends his Sundays golfing with him. My new job was going well, and James eventually found a new job too. During this time, Minnie avoided me like the plague. She refused to meet me or James, even though my parents insisted. She would make up random excuses not to meet us. She and I had not talked for a very long time, so I understood her hesitation, and honestly, I didn't mind. I was afraid she might try to jeopardize my relationship with James, just like she had done with all my previous relationships. James and I decided to get married after a few months of settling down in my home country. We booked plane tickets for his parents and grandparents so they could be there for us. We wanted a small, intimate wedding with only family and close friends and a short honeymoon. As we are both busy with work, we chose to have our wedding in the backyard of my parents' house, and they were extremely happy about this. Our grandparents, parents, siblings, and friends all made speeches, and we were showered with love and blessings. The only person missing was Minnie. She had apparently come down with a fever, or so she told us, which is why she couldn't attend. The food was awesome, and everybody danced until midnight. We all had a great time, and then James and I flew for our honeymoon. A week later, we returned from our honeymoon, and I was at my mother's place showing her photos from the wedding when Minnie showed up. As I was talking to my mom about how happy the grandparents were during the wedding, Minnie interjected, asking if James and I were having financial troubles. I laughed and told her I had a much higher paying job now than before, and James was doing well too. She then mocked me, saying maybe that wasn't the case since I had decided to get married in our parents' backyard. My mother came to my defense and told Minnie there was nothing wrong with getting married in her backyard, and that I wanted a smaller wedding, so it made sense. I agreed and told Minnie I was thankful for her concern. But James and I didn't like extravagant things despite our high income, as we believed in using our money wisely. Minnie got really angry hearing this and told me I was just trying to show off as usual and was probably lying about my salary. I shook my head and told her I didn't need to show off in front of her and that we weren't children anymore. She needed to grow up and not make assumptions or lies about me. I reiterated that this was why I was glad she didn't come to my wedding. This pissed her off, and she walked out crying. My mother tried to de-escalate the situation, but Minnie didn't listen. Later, she told my grandparents and some of my cousins about how I was glad she didn't come to my wedding and more things from our fight. I sent her a text to apologize, but she didn't bother replying. Over the years, I've tried to stay out of her way as much as I could. Although we did have a few good moments. James met her, and he immediately took a dislike to her because Minnie constantly made fun of him. For example, James and I both like watching Disney movies, which Minnie considers boring, and she said James might not be manly enough. I took a lot of offense when she said this, and later she apologized to me and James. Minnie also apparently expressed to my mother on several occasions, which I recently found out, that she thinks James is trying to control my life. When my mother confronted her about it, she said whenever she met James, she just had a bad feeling about him. One day, when my mother and Minnie came over for lunch at my place, Minnie told us she was facing issues with her boyfriend Larry. Apparently, Larry had moved in with Minnie but lost his job after 2 months. Since then, he wasn't working or paying any bills around the house. I told Minnie firmly that she needed to kick Larry out since he was clearly not contributing to their household. Then Minnie suddenly pointed out that I earned more than James. So did that mean I should kick him out too? I pointed out that while it's true I earn more than my husband, he earns quite well, and we both bring in cash flow to our household. He wasn't sitting around the house all day eating chips and playing games. My mother agreed and told Minnie how James had sacrificed his career so I could take this high-paying job. Minnie took offense to that and started saying men should always earn more and how it was weird that James was okay with this arrangement. I told her not every guy has a weak, fragile ego like the men she dated, and that James loved me for who I am. Minnie, of course, never listened. Later, she got married to Larry despite him being jobless. Larry also had a bit of a temper, which we witnessed during their wedding when he got too drunk and started to pick a random fight with a waiter. Minnie and some of his brothers had to restrain him. It was very embarrassing, and I was a bit scared for Minnie, but I knew she would never listen to me, so I kept my mouth shut. Over time, I noticed Minnie and Larry's fights increased because every time they fought, Larry would kick her out of their home, so she had to sleep at our parents' place. My parents were concerned about her, but Minnie refused to talk to them. One day, we heard from Larry's mother that Minnie had apparently cheated on Larry with one of her co-workers. They had a huge fight and decided to work through their marriage, even starting couples counseling. This year, I found out I'm pregnant. James and I are over the moon. My parents congratulated us and told me how proud they were to become grandparents soon. They assured me they would be there for me every step of the way. Once Minnie learned I was pregnant, she asked my husband and me about names we liked and whether we wanted her help. James and I had discussed a few names, but I didn't want to share them with her because I knew how judgmental she could be. I said a firm no and told her no names would be shared until the baby was born and the name was official. Minnie strongly suggested this was a terrible idea, saying we should discuss names with other family members to give the best name to our baby. I told her we didn't want people interfering in the name choice since this was our baby, and we would name it whatever we wanted. When it came to the baby shower, I asked my mother to arrange everything. I trusted her judgment, and besides, I hated planning. I also asked my mother to inform everyone not to give gifts since we still didn't know the baby's gender. I just wanted to have a good time with my friends, as it had been a long time, and learn tips about motherhood. On the day of the baby shower, I was pleasantly surprised to see that my mother had invited only my close friends, exactly what I wanted, and there were non-alcoholic drinks for everyone. I was having a great time catching up with my friends when Minnie showed up wearing a shirt that said godmother-to-be. My eyes widened in shock, as there was no way I would ever make her my baby's godmother. It was awkward, as she kept telling everyone how she had always wanted to be a godmother. What was frustrating was that she never discussed this with me. As the day unfolded, my mother invited my husband, my father, and Larry to join us later in the afternoon, since we were going to find out the baby's gender. As James and I cut the cake together, we were shocked to find out we were having a boy. Tears rolled down my eyes as my friends came and hugged me. However, Minnie suddenly stood up to announce she had something important to say. Everyone stopped talking and looked at her curiously. She looked solemn as she took out a document and held it up. She announced that a few days ago, I had apparently gone for a paternity test and found out James was not the father of my baby. She dramatically declared that the test results indicated a different father. The room fell silent, and James was visibly disturbed. He turned to me and asked what was happening and if what Minnie was saying was true. I shook my head and looked at Minnie to explain herself. My mother, without a doubt in her mind, asked Minnie what the hell she was up to and why she was making up such ridiculous things. She snatched the document from Minnie's hand and pointed out that the mother's name wasn't even mine. That's when Minnie started to laugh. With a smug expression, she revealed she had downloaded a fake paternity test from the internet and came up with this plan to prove a point. She claimed she wanted to expose James for who he was and how he was definitely abusive toward me. The entire room was in shock and disbelief. I asked Minnie if she was right in her head because my husband had never even raised his voice to me, let alone been abusive. She started saying there was no way a man could be happy letting his partner earn more than him, and that she had suspected for a long time he was extremely controlling. She gave random examples and concluded by pointing out how James got angry when she announced the paternity test. I yelled at her that the reason James got pissed was because she publicly humiliated me by announcing my child didn't belong to him. I told her my husband had never abused me or locked me out of our house, and she seemed to be projecting. I watched Minnie's face turn red in embarrassment. I continued, saying I was sick of her always being jealous of me my entire life and how disgusting it was for her to turn my baby shower into such a fiasco. I announced to everyone that Minnie had always done this, and recounted how she would lie about me to my ex-boyfriends. Minnie stood there, looking humiliated. My mother told her she had gone too far this time. Out of nowhere, her husband Larry, who had remained silent until then, stood up in the midst of the awkward silence and walked up to Minnie. To everyone's shock, he handed her some papers. The atmosphere shifted from discomfort to utter chaos as Minnie questioned him about what they were. Larry told her their marriage counseling was clearly not working, and he had realized they were toxic for each other. He said he had been contemplating divorce and wanted to give her these documents that night, but since she liked making a scene, he couldn't bear to go home with her. He told her he was done with her and her drama and walked out of the baby shower. The room fell into an uneasy silence as Larry's revelation hung in the air. Guests exchanged awkward glances, uncertain how to respond to the unexpected turn of events. Minnie stood there stunned and speechless, holding the divorce papers. Her attempt to overshadow the baby shower with her antics had backfired in the most unforeseen way. Instead of having the last laugh, she found herself facing the unraveling of her own marriage. The once celebratory atmosphere now carried a heavy tension, and the joyous occasion turned into a somber affair. As the reality sank in, I decided I was done with all this. I asked James to escort me out of the event, and he readily agreed. I hugged my mother goodbye, and she assured me she would call later to check on me. Minnie tried to come up and apologize, but I didn't even glance at her. Since then, my head has been reeling, as you can imagine. Everyone is quite shocked about what happened. I've been getting calls from people checking on me, and some informed me that Minnie burst out crying once I left the venue, and my parents kicked her out, refusing to listen to her. I feel pity for her since she has now lost me, my parents, and her husband. I feel a bit bad about how I shouted at her, even though at that moment it felt justified. Was I wrong for exposing her jealousy in front of everyone after she tried to come up with a fake paternity test? Update. Firstly, I want to thank each and every one of you who took the time to read and respond to my story. The outpouring of empathy, advice, and shared experiences over the past week has been overwhelming. I am genuinely touched by the sense of community Reddit has provided during such a tough time. I have never posted on Reddit before, but because of what happened with my sister, I thought I needed some outside perspective. It's true, what my sister did was extremely bizarre and vile, which is why I agree with some of your comments, that she might require professional help. I also need to talk with my parents and cut her off permanently. I can't have her behaving this way around my baby. Update. Hi everyone. It's been a month since my last update. I did talk to my parents about my sister, and they agreed it's the right decision for all of us to sever ties with her. Minnie shows no remorse and has now gone around telling people I made a huge deal out of her prank and brought up her past in front of her husband, which prompted him to divorce her. Larry has since talked with my parents and apologized for how he treated Minnie in the past. He told us the reason he would kick Minnie out of their place was not because he was abusing her, but because whenever they had fights, she would punch and kick him in the face, making him feel unsafe around her. This was shocking for us to hear because I always thought Larry was at fault, but then he showed us pictures of his broken nose and black eye. It's lucky that Larry loved her enough not to go to the police, otherwise Minnie would have ended up in jail by now. Clearly, he and Minnie had a toxic relationship and I'm kind of glad they're getting a divorce. My parents talked with Minnie and told her firmly she was no longer welcome at their place or mine. Minnie started with her waterworks, but my mom was so pissed after what she pulled at my baby shower that she went off on her and told her the next time she came near me or my baby, they would get a restraining order against her. They told her firmly she needed to talk to a psychiatrist because something was clearly not right in her head. Minnie has refused to seek help and told my parents they were being unfair by favoring me over her. Anyway, I have blocked her everywhere, and so has James. We have installed security cameras at our house, so if she ever comes to my place, I will involve the police. Update. It's been 8 months since my last update. I'm happy to write that I gave birth to my baby boy recently. The pregnancy was tough, but I'm so glad our child is here. We named him Alex. I can't believe I'm finally a mother. Our home is now adorned with the laughter and cries of our little one. James and I are adjusting to the new role of being parents, and despite the challenges, we are relishing every moment with our little one. My parents have been there for us every day as I get used to becoming a parent. James's parents are flying in to see us next month. Minnie has not disturbed us even once. The last I heard, she and Larry got a divorce, and she decided to pack up her things and move to a different city, perhaps to start afresh. I do feel sad that my sister cannot be part of my celebration. But as a parent, I have to protect my little one.